This offseason, some NFL teams are looking for one thing, a quarterback. Do you look into the NFL draft where people say the quarterback class isn't strong with Deshaun Watson, Mitch Trubisky, or Deshaun Kaiser? With the Browns and the 49ers having the first two picks in the draft, people say they should go defense and maybe wait. Browns have another pick in the first round, so they can waste it on the quarterback then. They have other teams taking the quarterback instead of the Niners and the Browns. The 49ers, what should they do at quarterback since they need one? Could they still use Kaepernick, or should they draft one? Or should they sign another quarterback? Browns have needed a quarterback for years, and they still need one. Are they going to find one? Who knows? What are some quarterback candidates? Well, one of the first candidates is a former might end up being a former Dallas Cowboy in Tony Romo. Romo is an interesting pick at this point since he hasn't been able to stay healthy in the last couple of years and is probably still looking to find maybe that one team that he could carry to the playoffs and win the Super Bowl. That's probably not going to happen at this point. The teams that are looking for Tony Romo are teams who need a jolt at quarterback, maybe playoff teams at this point. A team who is rebuilding, a young team, should not go after a guy like Tony Romo. He is injury prone, and, well, if teams do trade for him, or if the Cowboys decide to cut him, you're going to have to give up a hefty price. And I don't think he's going to want to sign for just a little small contract just to prove himself. Is Tony Romo really worth it? Nah, I don't think so. I'd rather go our younger route. I'd rather draft a quarterback. Now, like I've stated, the quarterback draft class this year isn't strong. But now, let's look at Jay Cutler, who's in a similar situation as Tony Romo. The older guy, he hasn't really have a lot left in him. They're around the same age. Both at this point, you could say they're on the trade block, even though Cutler officially is, but Romo isn't. I think Cutler is the guy who they're looking to get to trade, but he's not going to get traded. He's going to get cut, same as Romo, because no one's going to want to take on his big contract, and no one's going to give up anything for Jay Cutler. Cutler is in the same situation as Romo, who should find a team who is looking maybe to groom a quarterback, and they could use him to have him groom the next guy to take his place, and maybe look to see if they can carry a playoff team, which Romo and Cutler cannot. Now there's Kirk Cousins, who has already said he will not resign with the Redskins under a franchise tag. If he's going to resign, it wants to be a big deal. Well, teams that have been linked are every team that needs a quarterback, basically, and the 49ers. So the Browns, 49ers, and everybody else. Kirk Cousins, he isn't at that top-tier quarterback yet, and he still, in my opinion, needs to prove himself in order to deserve a big contract. Should he stay with the Redskins? Yes. Is the team going to overpay him like they did Brock Osweiler? Probably. But before we talk about overpaying guys, does Kirk Cousins really deserve it? I think he's done enough to be maybe a Joe Flacco type player, and in my opinion doesn't deserve a big contract, but can maybe win you a couple playoff games here and there around the right team. Now let's look at the guys who you're going to have to trade for in order to get him, and you will have to give up everything, well, almost everything. One, Jimmy Garoppolo. Garoppolo's been linked to the 49ers, the Browns, and the Patriots say they want a lot. In order to get him, I think they said a first and a fourth. Our team's willing to give up that for Garoppolo, who's only played a couple games, and he could end up like Brock Osweiler, $72 million man, $72, not million dollars, but dollar quarterback. Is Garoppolo really worth it? Yeah, he's only played a couple games, but Patriot players have been known to be system players who, when they go to a different team, don't really succeed. Now, another guy who's actually seen a little bit more, but could also end up being another Brock Osweiler, is Bengals backup quarterback A.J. McCarron. Now, we've seen McCarron in the playoffs when Andy Dalton went down a couple years ago. Is McCarron worth it? Well, he's been linked to the Browns because of Hugh Jackson. I think it's actually worth it with McCarron. You've seen him a little bit more. I wouldn't give up everything for him. I think he'd actually be cheaper draft pick and trade-wise than a Jimmy Garoppolo. And if I'm the 49ers or the Browns, I actually would go after him. Now, that being said, what should teams do? Should they trade for these guys? Sign quarterbacks? There's other quarterbacks out there like Colin Kaepernick. It all depends on what each team wants to do. In my opinion, the 49ers should decide what they want to do in the draft first, because they can bring in back like a guy like Colin Kaepernick, or they can go after Watson, Trubisky, or Deshaun Kaiser. Browns, once again, have to decide what they want to do. I think with that second pick they have in the first round, you could take a quarterback. So I think they kind of have it a bit easier with them. Or should a team go after a Jimmy Garoppolo or a Jim McCarron and hope these guys pay off, even though the draft class, with getting quarterback in the draft would be better? These are questions that are going to be answered this offseason. Interesting to see how things play out this year.